You ever wonder why one furnace seems to last forever, while the one right down the street is always on its last legs? Well, it's not just luck. Turns out there are these invisible environmental forces at work. And, the biggest one might be something you've never even thought about, your zip code.
Okay, so let's get right into it with a really specific question. How is it that an air conditioner in a mild, easygoing climate can just cruise for 2 decades, but in a place like Pontiac, Michigan, you're lucky to get 12 years out of it? This isn't about bad luck or a faulty unit, it's all about the environment. And today, we're going to unpack exactly why that is. So, here's our game plan. First, we'll get into why location is such a massive factor. Then we're going to dive deep into our Pontiac case study to see the damage firsthand. From there, we'll pinpoint the most common system failures, tackle that really tough repair or replace decision, and finally, I'll show you exactly what to look for in a real pro.
Right. So, your heating and cooling system isn't just sitting there in your house isolated. Nope. It's in a constant battle with the world outside. We're talking about the local climate, the age of the homes in your area, even the type of soil in your backyard. It all has this huge, often invisible impact on how hard your system has to work and ultimately how long it's going to last.
All right, let's put this whole idea to the test. We're going to zoom right in on Pontiac, Michigan. And why there? Well, because this area is basically a perfect storm of environmental stress that just absolutely punishes a home's heating and cooling system. First up, you have these absolutely brutal temperature swings. I mean, we're talking about winters that regularly dip below 10 degrees Fahrenheit, forcing furnaces to run pretty much nonstop for months on end. Then, you flip the calendar to summer and the humidity climbs over 80%. That makes the air conditioner work overtime just to try and pull all that moisture out of the air. Now check this out. It's not just about the extreme heat or the extreme cold. It's the swing between them that does the real damage. Think of it like bending a paperclip back and forth over and over. In this area, it's not weird for temperatures to jump 30 degrees in a single week. That constant expansion and contraction puts an incredible amount of stress on all the metal joints and delicate refrigerant lines, and eventually they just get tired and fail. And, believe it or not, it doesn't stop there. So many homes in Pontiac were built way before modern insulation standards, which means they leak air constantly. The local soil? It's heavy with clay, so it traps moisture and drives up basement humidity. And if you happen to live near the Clinton River, your system is getting hit with even higher levels of humidity. It's a total triple threat. So what does this all add up to in the end? Well, the numbers on this chart are pretty stark. In Pontiac, you're replacing your entire system a full 5 to 8 years sooner than the national average. And that's not just some minor inconvenience. That is the direct, measurable cost of living in this kind of high-stress environment. So we've seen the stress, right? But what actually breaks? That environmental pressure isn't just some abstract idea. It translates directly into specific, really common, and very expensive mechanical failures. And this table just illustrates the cause and effect perfectly. Those sub-zero winters, they cause the hot surface igniters in furnaces to crack from constantly heating up and cooling down. Those super humid summers, they just overwork and overheat AC compressors until they give out. And the poor insulation in those older homes, well, that leads to leaky ductwork that can waste an astonishing 25 to 40% of your conditioned air. This brings pretty much every homeowner to a critical moment. Your system breaks down. Now you have to decide, do you pour more money into fixing this old, tired unit? Or is it finally time to just replace the whole thing? So how do you know when to cut your losses? Well, the pros have this simple little guideline they use called the $5,000 rule. All you do is multiply your system's age in years by the estimated repair cost. If that number comes out to be over $5,000, it's a really strong sign that replacement is probably the smarter financial move. So for example, say you have a 15-year-old unit that needs a $400 repair, that's $6,000. Yeah, it's probably time for a new one. And here's the fundamental trade-off. Repairing is definitely cheaper today, but you're still stuck with an inefficient system that could easily break again tomorrow. Replacing costs more upfront, for sure, but you get a full warranty, modern energy efficiency that actually lowers your bills, and, peace of mind. It's a classic short-term savings versus long-term value decision. So, whether you end up repairing or replacing, you need an expert. Let's take a look at what separates the true professionals from everybody else to make sure you get real value and expertise for your money. Okay, here's what a quality service process should always look like. It starts with a thorough diagnosis of the entire system, not just a quick glance at the broken part.
Next, you should always get a clear written estimate before they start any work, so there are zero surprises. And finally, they should always back their work with a solid guarantee. It's simple, it's professional, and it's honest.
And here are the specific details you want to look for. Are they EPA certified? That's absolutely non-negotiable for safely handling refrigerants. Do they talk about manual J load calculations? That's the technical term for making sure the new unit is perfectly sized for your house, not just a guess. And do they price by the job, not by the hour? That's what protects you from surprise costs. These are the little details that really signal true expertise.
And this quote from the source material just sums it all up, really. A real pro doesn't use some simple rule of thumb based on your home's square footage. They perform detailed room-by-room calculations to make sure the system they install is perfectly sized for your home's unique needs. Anything less than that is just guesswork.
So, what's the big takeaway from our whole Pontiac case study? It's that every single home's environment is unique. The very first step to getting a reliable and efficient HVAC system is to actually understand the specific challenges your home is up against, whether that's humidity, extreme temperatures, or old construction.
And that really just leaves us with one final question to think about. After seeing everything a system in Pontiac goes through, what invisible forces is your home fighting every single day? Because understanding that, that's the key to mastering your own home's comfort.